I guess one of the things that struck me when I was, even before I started looking at it, and I wanted to ask you, so I'll start with that question. It says choreographed by ShaLeigh Comerford, and that's a funny kind of way of crediting the choreography that is a very specific choice, or not a funny way, but I wondered if you could talk about that process, because obviously you're working in choreography.
I guess I feel like my work will always be different depending on who's in the room. And a lot of times with this piece in particular, when we first started working on it, I would come in with tasks or questions or images. And I know that the magic that happens in rehearsals is the choreographic process. And you know, whether it's present or watching them looking at an image, or watching the way they'll take an idea that I've given them and kind of own it. Those kinds of things I feel like are so important to me to acknowledge.
So can you talk about, for instance, any of those specific tasks?
Where I have a lot of images, certain painters. I think we used a little bit of ShaLeigh, who's an artist. And we used a book called Evidence, which was images of crime scenes. We were specifically looking at a topic of the relationship between victims and victimizers and shifts of power. So we were looking at a lot of dark images. And then a lot of times Richard, who was the actor in the work, would come into rehearsal and I would give him some phrase like the physics of pain. You know, you have 10 minutes, right? And whatever we would develop a lot of material that way out of the moment, and then it would go through a great deal of refining and a great deal of further investigating, and trying to hone in on the specifics of what was reading and what was propelling the action forward. And we did start playing a little bit with the physicality of narrative, especially in this work. So I'm trying to think of some of the movement ideas I brought in, rhythms, images. I knew chairs were going to be important. I knew the colors were going to be black and white. So a lot of the images we worked with were black and white images. I was reading a little bit of Calvino and Peter Brook at the time.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Kind of slightly metaphoric relationship to the objects, how we could view them, and there seems to be something also about correct usage and incorrect usage, so to speak, in how you deal with chairs and how he deals with his jacket, in various kinds of ways. So did you talk at all about how you think about objects, and if any of what I just said makes any sense to you?
No, I like the way that the incorrect use of objects. I didn't actually approach it that way, but I did approach it in a very metaphorical way. And this idea of a jacket being more like a straight jacket or something confining you, and the way chairs falling on top of you. I knew that this piece, hopefully, I would like to further develop it, and I see an installation of chairs, and part of the biggest phrase that we do with the chairs, the most repetitive movement has to do with the idea of the ways that a chair can support you, or the way a chair symbolizes a metaphor of loss.
The costumes, I'm just wondering how you decided the costumes, if they had any historical or conceptual.
We were working with archetypes, like different kinds of, it's funny because I actually started out this piece and I was like, no archetypes. I'm going to find the archetype and throw it away. And this piece is completely based on archetypes. There may be several archetypes happening at once, but I knew that the women would be in black and white, but very feminine. And I knew that Richard would be in a suit. He kind of goes through a few different archetypal characters, specifically located around the year 1968. And we are, I think think, a bit more environmental than that. We're not quite that specific. We're much more than that, and it's good to, to hear it. It's interesting with this piece, I hear it read very many different ways every time that it's shown. In terms of a resolve, there were no resolves, that was at least a conscious decision, because I wanted to locate moments of a narrative, and I wanted to find its vanishing point, because I was more interested in layering time and layering like an epigram. I wanted the content to be maximized, and I wanted the details to be very specific. So that was one way that I was thinking about in terms of relationships, because even though the most pronounced relationship is one man to either all of these women or one man to one woman, there is a layer of individual society, individual to group, that kind of happens at different moments. And when it vanishes, my hope is to create more of a sensation and less of the narrative.
Yeah, I found it interesting that the use of the amplification of sound, there was a sort of synergistic effect between the sound and the drama, how the breathing even, and the chewing of the apple, at the very end, the entire chorus, kind of very primal beating of the floor from the body and movement just added to the drama, and I found it the use of the theme of robbery and being deluded unusual. I usually don't deal with that. And that was, the whole metaphor, the Adam and Eve, the apple, the robbery, the sense of shame taking out from his family. It was over there, the modesty. So there were so many things. It's really a rich tapestry.
Thank you.
Just one more question. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, I'd like to learn this stuff. I had a couple things that I thought I'd point out that it struck me. One was this idea that you commented on of the guy as sort of a narrative figure, and he was well performed. All the performances were great. He had an ability to be kind of sassy and jiving and earnest too. But that idea that there's a single person in the environment, that's interesting. And then the chair work it's not easy. It can be cliched, and you're doing great on it. I mean, the fact that you said you wanted to do an installation with the chairs, keep going on that, because some of it was like, whoa, basic. So that's kind of some observations on what was going right.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Not getting that. So, I want to thank you and thank everybody.